Happy New Year! Today we're going to take a closer look at the Retroid Pocket 6, or RP6 for short, and really dive into its features. Upon first glance, you might mistake it for an RP5, right? But many details differ from the RP5. I'll put the spec sheet in the top left corner of the screen for you to check out. It runs on a Qualcomm Snapdragon with 8 plus 128 GB and 12 plus 256 GB options. 8 plus 128 GB starts at $1,499. The model I'm currently holding in my hand is indeed a beautiful purple one. And it also comes in the colors shown in the pictures, so you can choose which one you like best. Under the sunlight, this purple shade looks even more beautiful and vibrant. See how it still sparkles? Alright, next, we'll take a thorough look at all the accessories it comes with. We've already gone over the instruction manual and the specification sheet, so we won't be looking at them again here. There's an RP6 SIM card, and right underneath it you'll find nothing more than a simple A to C charging data cable, just one of them. Let's take a comprehensive look at the detailed exterior. From the front, you'll observe that the screen area presents some distinctions from the RP5. Specifically, let's examine the RP5.5. Note the screen's chamfering. The upper edge incorporates an additional angled cut. The overall screen dimensions remain precisely the same, both measuring 5.5 inches, although the RP. The 6 has a 5.5-inch OLED 120 Hz display, but this is 60 Hz. The front-facing dual speakers are exactly in the same position as before, and all 4 function buttons are identical, including the ABXY buttons. They still rely on conductive rubber, but the tactile feel of the ABXY has noticeably improved, becoming much softer to the touch. And as you can see, the material used for these buttons is It's transparent, with a texture similar to Sony's. The button layout, as you can see, follows the traditional Nintendo arrangement. The joystick caps on this version are now different. They have been redesigned to feature an anti-slip material that wraps around the entire perimeter of the edges. They still feature a slightly concave design, and around them you'll find those cool joystick lighting effects. Let's take another look at the left side. The D-pad is located at the bottom. However, the RP6 also offers a variant with the D-pad positioned at the top. The D-pad utilizes a dome switch for a tactile feel and features a translucent design. Situated directly above it are the shoulder buttons, which are micro switches, followed by the trigger buttons. Are linear Hall effect triggers, and their size is quite substantial. Let's bring the RP5.5 over here. Its triggers are significantly larger, and the shoulder buttons are much bigger as well. However, the anti-slip texture on top has been removed. It's now replaced with this ultra-fine matte material. Up top, you'll find the power button and the volume up and down buttons. However, it does not come with a fingerprint scanner. On the bottom, we have the TF card slot, complete with a slot cover. It supports a maximum of 2 TB TF cards. To its right, you'll find the 3.5mm headphone jack and the Type-C port. This time, the Type-C isn't perfectly centered, but rather, the bar itself is. Now let's examine the Type-C port again. It's a bit to the left. This particular Type-C port supports fast charging up to 27 watts. The battery is a robust 6000 mAh, and it even offers video output. Neither the left nor the right side of the device features any ports whatsoever. Here, there's a grip designed ergonomically for comfortable handling. However, the anti-slip texture that was previously present on the grip is now absent. If you recall, the RP5.5 model still includes it right here. They've also added 2 new back buttons on the rear, a feature also present on the Odin 2 and Odin 1 models. And finally, this time around, the RP series is equipped with back buttons, specifically M1 and M2. On the back, we can appreciate a textured design. To the right, you'll find the fan intake vent, and above it, 2 strips for the fan exhaust vents. While they appear quite dark, they actually contain a dust filter mesh. This time, even the intake vent is equipped with a dust filter mesh. The RP5.5's intake vent didn't have a dust filter mesh before, but the exhaust vent did. Now, let's take a look at its size. Compared to the RP5.5, let's place it next to its sibling. It is slightly longer than the RP5.5 and also a bit thicker. This means the protective case for the RP5 and RP5.5 will unfortunately not fit this model. And compared to the Odin 2 Mini, which many of you are also watching, let's see, it's also a little bit longer than that. The D-pad and ABXY buttons are also made of crystal material. The ABXY buttons are a bit larger. You can see the comparison. It's 7.9mm, so it's bigger. This is 7.4. The D-pad is 9.5, so the D-pad hasn't changed. Next to the Odin 3, the Odin 3 is quite a bit longer. For those unfamiliar with Android handhelds, let's take a look. When placed next to a Switch Lite, its size and width are quite similar, but the RP6 appears considerably slimmer. The screen size, 5.5 inches, is also identical on both. Let's check the weight. The RP6 is 304 grams. The RP5.5, also G2, is 219 grams. The Odin 2 Mini is 333 grams. The Odyssey at 388 grams, its body size and weight are actually quite well controlled given its dimensions. Let's check the benchmark scores. This is the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2, and this is the Snapdragon 8 Gen 2 as well, but this one is the Snapdragon 8 Extreme. You can see their benchmark scores are basically the same. The Odyssey with the Snapdragon 8 Extreme Edition is much stronger, scoring over 3 million. Let's check out the dimming on these 4K displays under 4000 nits. So first, the brightness is at its absolute maximum level right now, and then we'll just slide it down a bit to adjust it. This particular model features global PWM dimming technology. With the RP5.5, you can clearly see this is DC-like. We're going to lower the brightness for demonstration purposes. It's a global DC-like display. Regarding the sound, we won't conduct a detailed test here, as it shares the same speakers as the RP5.5 and the RP5. Now let's take a direct look at the performance aspects, specifically focusing on the PC simulation for powerful games like these. This game is called Little Nightmares, and it's a fantastic experience. Down here you can see the frame rate. The text is pretty small, so I'll just tell you. The current frame rate is approximately 40 frames per second, offering a smooth and responsive experience for users. It's basically stable, consistently staying around 36 to 40 frames per second, which is quite impressive and holds up very well. Then Shuhai G. You can also see the frame rate displayed at the bottom. It generally hovers around 45 frames per second, fluctuating slightly up or down from that average. Let's move around a bit more and then carefully observe the frame rate, shall we? This way we can get a better sense of its performance. Inside the house, once I stand up, the frame rate reaches a solid 40 frames per second. Now let's step outside and see what happens. It does tend to experience a bit more stuttering out here, with the frame rate dropping to around 30 FPS when I'm outdoors. Then, once we transition to the dining room, the frame rate consistently hovers around 35 frames per second. When we're running these games, the fan noise isn't too noticeable, and the frame rate is currently hitting around 40 frames per second. The ambient noise level, which is the white noise, remains steady at approximately 35 decibels. What you'll observe is that the fan noise it generates is incredibly minimal, almost imperceptible. Let's take a moment to play around with the thermal imager and see what the temperature readings are like. Looking at the front, the left side of the screen shows a slightly higher temperature, hovering around 22 to 23 degrees Celsius. It's noticeably warmer there. And on the right side of the screen, where the screen cable should be, it's also 22 degrees. There's absolutely no heat detected where your palms would rest on either side. Now let's turn our attention to the back side, specifically this area, to gain a clearer understanding of what's going on. This is the heat dissipation zone, specifically the fan exhaust vent, where it's currently registering 30 degrees Celsius. This area likely houses the copper piping that directs air to the vent. Interestingly, the grips on both ends remain at a comfortable temperature, showing no signs of warmth. While there's a slight temperature increase here, it's still quite low, hovering around 16 or 15 degrees. We're talking about the SWITCH here. We'll skip the Switch emulator testing for now. Let's look at the Wii U emulator instead, taking a closer look at its performance. This Banjo-Kazooie emulator should really have absolutely no trouble at all running WIIU games. Furthermore, the Banjo-Kazooie emulator should likely be recognized as the Android emulator that features the most comprehensive and extensive driver support available, don't you think? This is the HD remastered version of Wii U, and playing this version is simply so much more comfortable and enjoyable. Alright everyone, let's dive into the game now and see what it's all about. With all these amazing features, I'm sure it's going to be a blast. Also running at full frame rate. I really genuinely love the cartoon style of this game. I've also gone ahead and installed a little modification here, specifically the Link 2 MOD. Next up is God of War 2 at 4x resolution, and for that we'll move to a large screen scenario. If the top right corner remains green, or rather white or green, it signifies that you are consistently achieving a full frame rate throughout. This vibration sounds somewhat like a vibrator, but then again, it doesn't quite sound like a typical one. We'll have to take it apart later for a closer inspection to truly find out. Next, let's take a look at Valkyrie Profile 2. What you're seeing here is it running at 3.5x resolution, and it's capable of hitting a smooth 60 frames per second, providing a truly excellent experience. It stuttered a little in the tavern just now, but when it came to 8 sovereigns, it ran at a solid 60 frames per second throughout. Now let's take a look at Contra and really examine its 10-key directional precision. We can fully move down, crouch, go down left, down right, up right, and even crouch while moving. There's absolutely no ghosting or any key conflicts whatsoever, which is truly impressive, offering a seamless gaming experience. The material is a conductive film, so the directional accuracy is definitely going to be good. Next, let's explore the PS3 emulator. For this particular demonstration, we'll be utilizing the game Armored Core 0. To the right, you'll find its control bar, displaying the brightness settings, our current operating temperature, and naturally, our frames per second. It's clearly visible right here, and it's also indicated at the very top, so you're welcome to glance up there if you'd like to check it out. Alright, let's go ahead and get this fired up and running then. I had to download and then activate that specific flashlight application. That was the only way to ensure it was properly illuminated and to maximize its brightness. And the gameplay also feels incredibly fluid and smooth, which is great to experience. So right about now, you can probably hear the fan speed has increased a fair bit. Let's all take a moment to listen and perceive just how loud it has become. I'll momentarily mute the sound so you can focus on that. It's not very high. This handheld device also features its own dedicated front-end interface, aptly named Pocket Game. Within this interface, users have the flexibility to import their personal game collections. Once imported, they can effortlessly customize and edit various details, such as the cover art and game titles. Furthermore, all the associated gaming platforms are conveniently integrated and accessible within this same interface. In terms of its performance, it really meets the normal standard for a Snapdragon 8200 handheld, and its price has now also dropped to 1,499 yuan. The fan noise is controlled pretty well, and this screen also has a high refresh rate. Since we're on the topic of its impressive high refresh rate, let's take a moment to examine just how well its streaming capabilities stack up. Here, the screen is 1080p at 120 Hz, and our streaming settings are also bumped up to 1080p and 120 Hz. Now let's take a look at the average latency and average frame time. The average latency typically hovers around 10 milliseconds, and the average frame time is approximately 5 milliseconds. This, as you can see, is what the Snapdragon 8200 delivers in terms of performance.
Alright, so now, let's go ahead and carefully disassemble it. We'll open it up and take a really good look inside to truly examine and understand its internal components and how everything is laid out. We'll see just how well it's constructed and performs internally.
So these are two spare parts. The vibrator motor here has been upgraded to a linear vibration motor. Then you have the cooling fins, followed by the turbo fan. The entire internal layout is quite tidy and well organized, maintaining a very clean aesthetic. The battery itself is a 6000 mAh linear slide-out unit, thoughtfully integrated into the design. The C port is positioned slightly off-center. This seems to have been done specifically to accommodate the battery. So everyone, what do you think of the craftsmanship on the inside of this device? Alright, let's bring this video to a close with a summary. First up, we'll discuss the screen, which certainly has its ups and downs. The pro is that it's a 1080p, ID bezel-less, 120 Hz high refresh rate screen. The downside, however, is that it utilizes PWM dimming, but on the bright side, the overall feel and grip of the device are really quite impressive. The purple sparkling pearlescent paint finish also looks pretty appealing and quite effective. Subsequently, the anti-slip texture has been completely removed, and frankly, I personally find that quite unexpected, to say the very least. The paint quality is good. In terms of performance, it's the Snapdragon 8200, and for 1,499 yuan, the price is pretty great. One more thing, the rotor has finally been upgraded to linear vibration. So after all of that, what are your final thoughts on the RP6? What do you guys think of it? If you enjoyed this video, please like, share, and subscribe to show your support. Wishing